Hello and welcome everybody back to another episode of the Spines and Spirits podcast. I'm your guide. My name is Adam and I am searching for that mad hermit in the woods. Dave, where are you?
Shout out to our boy Dave. And I am Gerald with a J tonight, y'all. And I am trying not to go mad with what?
The name of this episode is a tie-in to our boy Elodin or however you want to say it.
Elodin.
This is episode 8, as it says above us. This is Sip, 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 Slide. So we are in The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Guys, we're here. We're officially halfway through the first book. Gerald, what are our spirits?
The spirits we're talking about aren't the ones that you're going to find in a crazy asylum. No. If you want those tales, go to Full Moon EP Road, our brother's podcast. These are the spirits to take a nice long sip on.
Gerald, what are we sipping on tonight?
I want to say we're sipping on that Buffalo Trace.
Buffalo Trace. That is one of our staples and favorites.
Yes, sir.
What's the proof on it, Gerald? It's 90 proof.
It's 90 proof, yeah.
I will help you out with that one, brother.
Okay. Yeah, it's 90 proof. It's that staple, but what is proof? I don't know.
We are going to get started tonight. We're going to hop right into the interlude. In case you forgot, I know it's been a couple weeks. Like we said in last week's whiskey episode, we apologize. There were some personal things that came up that kept us from being able to record, but we're back with you today in The Name of the Wind. Mm-hmm. We're in chapter 45. It's the interlude, and it's Some Tavern Tale. This chapter basically Bast questions Kvothe about Scarpy. You know, like, why didn't you just go looking for Scarpy? And like all good stories, Kvothe tells him, you know, he needed to find the mad hermit in the woods. Something that I thought was particularly interesting in this chapter, Gerald, and maybe you can hop in on this as well, but Kvothe says that he has made enemies more dangerous than any one of the Chandrian at the university. Number one, I thought that was kind of interesting that he dialed it into being any one of the Chandrian. He didn't group them together as a whole. Mm-hmm. Why do you think he feels he's made enemies more dangerous than any of the Chandrian?
Well, for one, these are people that Kvothe has to deal with on a day-to-day basis while he's at the university. The Chandrian are not mythical creatures that, well, some people will say that in this world, but they're not like after him at the moment. He's dealing with the real world, you know, life, tuition, place to sleep, eat, rest, you know what I'm saying? It's I think that's what he's more going on with about what he's talking about. And yeah, for future books, I think it's more than just this one. I mean, not in this first book. You'll see what ends up happening. Ugh, can't talk tonight, y'all. I'm rusty.
I also thought in this chapter, I don't want to say I read in this chapter that he kind of talks about his constant struggle with PTSD. He sees, you know, kids with their parents and he's hurting, you know, and he talks about how it's impacted him having to be in that environment where he knows he has nobody.
Well, you got to remember also what he said, that he has to be careful sometimes because learning from Ben, empathy has given him a mind like a sharp knife, and he can cut himself sometimes if he wonders a little too much and not staying on task at hand. Again, Bass over here is one of my favorite characters, and like I said, not, you know, first couple times reading this, you know, where you see how much Bass truly doesn't really know the man, the myth that is Kvothe, or Resi, he'll say, Or is it just he knows Resi, but he doesn't know Kvothe?
So that's pretty much going to wrap up chapter 45. Let's move on in, or should I say slide on in, to chapter 46, The Ever-Changing Wind. Like I said at the beginning, we're going to be bringing in Elodin in this chapter, and this is where the episode name comes from. We'll get to that about halfway through. So Kvothe finds Elodin, and he tries to convince him to teach him. Basically says like, oh, you know, I can teach you, and sends him on a fool's errand. So Kvothe has to go find 3 pine cones with nothing broken, about that big. Comes
Every
back.
man knows about that.
Comes back, and Elodin's gone. Kvothe catches up to him, and it's not like Elodin was trying to dodge him. Like, he is just moseying on, being himself. But Kvothe tells him, could he answer a few questions? And he's like, you have 3. You've got 3 questions. And the first one right off the bat is, why don't you want to teach me? After he asks that question, Elodin comes in and uses what we'll find out is a derogatory term to the Rue. He calls him ravel and being hard to teach. And so rather than Kvothe doing what he would normally do, which is let his trooper's tongue and his quick wit take over, he swallows his pride and tries to suck up to this master, and Elodin calls him out on that, and it makes it worse.
And a bootlicker to boot.
And a bootlicker. But he leads him to this big place that Kvothe doesn't know what it is. And Elodin actually asks him, have you ever seen Haven? I thought that the name of this place was, kind of strange, given that, the definition of Haven is a place of, safe refuge. Obviously, it has derogatory names, and he tells him, the rookery or the crockery, because it's where you go when you're a raven.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's named Haven because it's not so much for people who have maybe gone crazy, but it's trying to put a good name on a place where they can try and protect them from themselves?
I will say yes. That's why the name is, because after probably in a couple more minutes, you understand why I say that is, because you see that Elodin is checking in on somebody where he's taking Kvothe to see, and you can see how that plays out soon. I think that's why it's called Haven instead of being like the rookery, like the students like to call it,
or an asylum, which is what we would call it. We would say it's like an insane asylum, or a psychiatric ward, or a mental hospital. I just thought it was interesting. It was called Haven.
Yeah, it was interesting. I thought it fit the bill, kind of.
So it does say it can hold potentially up to 500 students. There are 1,500 people at the university, so we are talking a third of the students.
Well, it's like Kvothe said beforehand. If you see Arcane and they might be acting a little strange, we are warping our minds to and bending our minds to do unordinary things.
So Elodin leads Kvothe through Haven, and that is where the name of our episode comes from, because he is acting like a kid. He's in his socks, and he step, slide. So on that note, we're going to take a sip, and let it slide on down. So he takes him to meet his giller named Alderwin, who is clearly not doing well. And he even tells Kvothe, he knew what he was getting into when he became my giller. You don't. But before I even get to that, the whole interaction's a little strange, but whenever Elodin goes to leave, he says, "Is there anything I can bring you?" Alderwin tells him, "Don't bring thunder." Going back to chapter 7, Kvothe says that the Adim call him Madre or Madir, and that the meaning of that could be thunder. Did you pick up on that?
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, I was going to mention that on that part. I thought that was kind of interesting.
So you think he was referencing Kvothe?
Well, yeah, because you just, I don't want to try to jump on your toes just a tad bit, but this is
jump away.
I think Elodin is and his Giller are significant, kind of like a over the same coin kind of thing, where Elodin was locked up in Haven for 2 years, is from trying to learn the name of many things. So is his Giller, and the same way Elodin can get out. He has hope for his Giller to get out. I'm thinking this is like a parallel secrets. If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes any sense on that one.
I mean, it does, but I don't agree with you. I'll say that because, and this is me knowing what's going on in the future. I don't remember Alderwin being mentioned again. So I think that it's a lot heavier whenever Elodin was put in there and he was locked up for 2 years. You got to remember, he was the Chancellor. He was not a Giller. Well, he was so much more than that. I think that what cracked him, man, I would love to see that story. Patrick Rothfuss, man, write the novella. That'd be interesting.
Write
the damn novella.
He's working on it. Leave him be.
No, he's working on Bast. We don't care about Bast.
November. He coming in November. Don't talk about Bast. I already know about it.
And if you're curious about the cover for Bast novella, go check out our Twitter. It's down in the socials. We got to tweet it out there.
Yes, we do. So I will go with, since we're kind of like, talking shop here, I will go with, I'm thinking, which we didn't get to Elodin's old room yet, but I'm thinking the way Elodin teaches, it has something to do with why he might have been locked up. I don't think he's went quite mad yet. You know what I'm saying? Because if he was quite mad and you just escaped, I think they're gonna be like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to put you back in here. You ain't." you get what I'm saying? You're not just gonna just be like, "Yeah, oh you escaped. Oh, you must got your mind back to it. It's fine." I think it was more because later on you'll see in the books, how his teaching methods are. And it's kind of strange, and I'm wondering if it might have endangered some of the students. It's the reason why the master's like, yeah.
I think it absolutely endangered his students.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that's why they redid it, and I think it's a way that he's later on you'll see, especially in the second book. And normally, I don't know to go for the second book, but we're missing the lady tonight, so I'm gonna go ahead and give her a little shout out, that in the second book, Kvothe starts understanding some of how Elodin teaches, or how you say his actions, really, basically, in the second book. I'm not trying to spoil too much out of that, but yeah.
So we leave Alderwin's cell, and he leads him to his room. He takes off a sock, ties it in a knot to keep the door from locking behind him. He goes in, and Kvothe notices something's wrong with the air. He waves his hand, and even Elodin's like, "I'm surprised you noticed it."
Mm-hmm.
This is where the second. So if he took down one, this is where the next question is going to be asked, which is, how did you get out? And Elodin, who has been trying, or Elodin, who has been trying to get these questions out of Kvothe, not realizing, I think, to the level of persistence he would have. And he's like, "Thank God you've asked another question." And he ties it back into the Taborlin the Great story. he goes over to the wall and he says, and because Elodin knew the names of all things, he said, break, and the wall broke.
I got one thing to say, just to stop you just a minute. Do
'Kay.
you love how it was the masters, which if he's the eighth master, that there were 7 masters that trapped him in this room, where the Chandran is supposed to be known as 7.
Well, there's 9 masters.
I thought that was 8.
Nope, there's 9. So counting him, there's 9. So there's 8,
Yes.
and then him.
I thought I had something there. I was working with it.
No, there's 9.
There
there
are 9.
is-
Yes, 9.
Let's do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lauren, Arwill, Mandrag, Brander, him, Kilvin, I can't remember the Chancellor's name,
Yeah.
Exladal, and Elodin.
Bring out the
Do you know what really ticked me off about? Do you know what really ticked me off when we recorded that episode? I think it was like 2 or 3 episodes ago, and I went through and tried to name all the masters off the top of my head. Do you know which one I forgot?
the Chancellor again?
No, it was Lauren, the guy we were literally talking about. When I listened to it, and I was like, how did I miss Lauren? We were just talking about him. So when it doesn't work for him to break the wall, he's like, ooh, they, basically like they got clever. And he says, Sire Basalian, I will be straight up honest. I didn't realize this, but through random like Reddit threads and reading what different people are saying, there are people out there who go in and break down the different languages and the way that the people speak, and Sire Basalian is supposedly Fane. Why do you think that is?
For one, they probably preparing to put him back in that room. It's the reason why they're like, oh, that's clever. Look at them. I think that's one of them. The second, I think you have to travel the world to actually figure out the different name stuff. I mean, that's like how the ever-changing name of the wind is, you might know the name of the wind on this side, but, if you go across the map, you try to call the wind, you're not going to be able to call the wind because it's named different, or it's a different meaning over there.
Can I jump in?
Yes, please.
It also talks about later on, I want to say Elodin's telling him, that's the way you heard it, because that's the word that your mind recognized. So I guess that's kind of what I was trying to get to, and I wasn't being super clear. Like, why do you think Kvothe heard a Fey word? And how does he know a Fey word?
It goes back to the Lackless rhyme that he might not be
Arledin.
out of his son, truthfully. I mean, he might have raised him, which technically that would mean he is his son, but I think he's sired by something else. We find out later on the story, or the story of like Telu, how Telu was fathered himself, kind of thing, kind of different thing. I'm thinking that's how, or this is how Kvothe knows it. It's just like it's his, it's his sleeping mind that he's not realizing what's going on really.
How would his sleeping mind know the Fey language, though?
Goes back to where I'm going with the principle that he's something more than just a Demaru. That's the best way I could say it at this moment, at this time.
Okay.
I
would like to hear you explain that out, but if you're saying it's going to lead into too many spoilers, you can wait if you want.
It will.
But I do need
20 minutes.
your. Well, that's okay, because I need your promise that you're going to bring this theory forward at some point. Because
for sure, yeah.
I'm interested.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time. Like, this is what Kvothe came to learn. Mm-hmm. This is the first time he's seen somebody that. This is the first time he's seen somebody who could be considered the all-powerful. He even talks about how he struck an impressive figure once he walked out and stood on the edge of the roof. If you could remember that he only had one sock on.
One sock, yep.
Because the other sock is blocking the door, which at one point, Kvothe even went back and forth about potentially pulling that sock off and locking him back in.
Yeah, he's like, "Would the masters reward me if I do this?" Because Elodin is quite mad.
So he goes in, or he goes out onto the roof, and finally here comes the third question. He asks Elodin, "What do I have to do to study naming under you?" Gerald, what was the answer?
Jump off this roof.
And I can understand why he did it, why Kvothe did it. I'm not going to talk about Elodin. I can understand why Kvothe did it, because if you just saw this guy do what he just did to this wall, I'm going to be like, he's got me.
No. Excuse me.
So you wouldn't have jumped.
This is okay. So before we get on this last little part, Kvothe was not. It's kind of like how like say, you hearing me, but you ain't listening. You know what I'm saying? You get that point. And I'm thinking Elodin is teaching Kvothe while he's going through the haven. I want to say the rookery because that's what we always known it as, the rookery.
Rookery, the crockery.
Crockery, yeah. So the whole time he's teaching Kvothe stuff, but his sleeping mind, Kvothe's sleeping mind, isn't able to pick up on it yet. He could have just jumped. He didn't have to jump off the roof. He could have just jumped and be like, oh, because that's what he's like. Because what ends up happening after Adam starts explaining it, you'll see what happens, and it's kind of hilarious because Elodin's like, huh. That was the most impressive, dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Ever.
Yeah,
because he jumped off the roof and turned to look at him as he fell.
But this is also another thing I wanted to bring up too. I totally almost forgot to bring it up. Kvothe is remember in the last chapter, Kvothe is already saying, "I'm looking for the hermit to teach me everything." What do all stories have? A tragedy happened. You seek for revenge. You find,
the guide.
Old swordsman. Yeah, the guide.
You find the guide.
And he's listened to those stories. And then he's like, yes, this has been a test the whole time. I have literally passed it. Matter of fact, I was so clever enough that I figured out there was something wrong with the room. And he already said that most people wouldn't even know it. So yes, this has all been a test. And he knows the name of the wind. So he's going to catch me like this would be Aberdeen. But one thing Kvothe didn't realize, Elodin isn't Aberdeen. So he's like, yeah, this is boom.
And I just want to talk about how beautiful the prose is that Patrick Rothfuss uses when he writes, because I do think I will be disappointed if this is ever brought into a TV series or a movie, because there's so many of these scenes that I've seen play out in my head as I read it, as I listen to it.
Yeah.
I would be let down trying to see them reenact, especially this being one of the scenes. And there's a multitude of them throughout the reading, but this one, just how it describes how he turns and looks at him, and just like how I picture the smug look on his face, like, yep, you know the name of wind, you're gonna lightly set it down in a caressing, set me down in a caressing way.
Just and then I hit. I hit hard. And I'm not talking about just a normal, caressing or something.
Even talking about how, and even talking about how once he hit the ground, he couldn't breathe. The way he wrote that stuff, it's just it's real and it's easy to picture, easy to see, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll say too, I'll put it right here, right there. I'll put it right there. But the picture that it has of Elodin and Kvothe right after he has broken that wall in the 10-year anniversary edition is priceless. That leads us into chapter 47, which is called Barbs. This chapter, basically the first term comes to an end. He's studied in the Medica. He's starting to learn a little bit more Siaru. He has joined the Artificery, like we talked about at the end of the last chapter. He has gotten closer with his little band of brothers and his close friends of Will and Sim, and he's become more intense enemies with Ambrose. At one point closer to the end of this chapter, Quoth even mentions that he was fearless because he thought Ambrose was a clown. And as we learned earlier in the book, there's only two people who are fearless, priests and fools.
And he's like, and I was a fool.
Because he's never been on good terms with God.
Yep. Yeah, that was interesting.
This is just like a 2-page chapter, I think. That, like I said, chapter 47 is pretty short. Honestly, chapter 48 is a little short too. We'll go ahead and dive into that one. It is called Interlude, a silence of a different kind. And just off of the hills of talking about how Quoth was fearless, it talks about how Bast was fearless, but now he has a fear, or maybe even multiple fears. But one of the biggest fears that he has is the silence that's gathering around his Reshi. Gerald, this is your boy. Is there anything you want to talk about?
This is a interesting point of view because it's not coming from Kvothe. It actually goes back to the beginning where there's a silence of 3 parts. That, it's the narrator, which is still not Kvothe, is telling you that there's a silence that this man holds. And who else holds signs like this that are telling? Adam, to you?
You're going to say the Chandrian.
Yes, and also remember, the chronicler was like, they even said there's a new Chandrian loose. So, do you think it could be Kvothe himself? I doubt it, but there's definitely something going on there. And
I've wondered about it, honestly.
Is that why the Chandra actually, you think about it, if you murder or one of the Chandras be defeated, do you take his place?
I don't think it's anything like that. I really don't, but I do think it's one of those things where they say, stare into the abyss long enough, something stares back.
Something stares back at you, yes.
Yeah, so I think that, if he has become so obsessed with the Chandrian at some point, it is possible that he could become like them. So it is a possibility.
And not halitosis.
Not halitosis.
But halitosis.
There is no bad breath in this story. But there should be because nobody brushes their teeth.
Oh, I don't know. I got to put it right a little bit. But no. I will go with, or did he find the bad matches best left alone like Lord had asked? And this is one of his tales.
The real answer to that is held in a book that we may never see.
We will see it. Why do you keep saying such things? We will see it. And it's going to be pretty. And listen, guys. Listen, everybody. I want y'all to know. I'm going to make sure when it comes out, I'm saying, no, y'all can't read it for 2 weeks because y'all was so doubting about it. So I'm going to get all the good juices. And I'm just like, boy, y'all got to wait to read it. And every time I come over to his house, I'm going to be like, make sure if I see a book, I'm going to take it from him.
Speaking of you holding us accountable for things, Christy made sure to point out that Mola has been held back a lot longer than what was listed as like Arwill's traditional way of doing it. So I'm sorry, Christy, because as she said in that recording, I said I would give her an apology if Mola had been held back longer.
Yeah, this is short. Actually, this is the second interlude in just 2 chapters, really?
It is, and to be honest, I don't know why this one's here. Like, the other one kind of made sense. This one really didn't to me. And one thing that they're trying to push in this is, like, it says this story's missing something. Gerald, what's the story missing?
Women, Ressie.
No,
Women.
not women. The woman.
Hey. This is true.
Something else I wanted to point out in this chapter, too, that happens is Kvothe mentions that he sang colors to a blind man. He said it was 7 hours, but he saw them. That sounds an awful lot like it could be a singer to me. What do you think?
I think he learns better with music.
I don't think that's tonight.
Yeah, I No, it won't be tonight.
Yeah, it'll be next week.
But later on, he just like with music, he learns a lot quicker if he can put it to music.
But what I'm saying is, like, he sang colors to a blind man. He made a blind man see. Number one, obviously, there's biblical, like, parallels there.
Yeah,
but he sang them to him, and he said he could see them, and he talked about the colors he could see. You know, the singers, the Sith, the Amir. That's what I'm saying. He sounds like a singer to me.
I can agree. I can live to agree with that one. On to the next chapter.
On to the next chapter. So that wraps up chapter 47's interlude. It's going to take us into our final chapter of the evening, which is going to be chapter 49, The Nature of Wild Things. It's another short chapter.
True.
In this one, Kvothe goes through admissions for his second term. He gets caught for 3 talents, 9 jots, and 7 drabs. My Kvothe of the night will be, there are 2 sure ways to lose a friend. One is to borrow, the other to lend. Mm-hmm. But he needed somebody to lend him some money.
Going to Imre, so Kvothe getting on the bad side of Master him, and him's like, yeah, I don't like you, so we're gonna jack your price up. And also Elodin, the librarian,
Lauren
was disapproved as well of Kvothe, so they jacked his tuition up a little higher. Also, he couldn't study in the library too. I mean, not the
archives.
Library, that's archives. That's Christy Road's library. Archives, so.
But he, that's where we're going to pick up next week's episode is he's in Imre. We're going to bring our girl with the strawberry blonde hair, Devi.
Little mousy girl,
who can pretty much match wits with our protagonist.
Can she though, or was she just caught off guard? Stay tuned to next week.
Stay tuned. One quick thing before we do end. Right here behind me, one of our loyal listeners, Mr. Thomas, I do appreciate you putting my face on Jon Snow while sitting on the Iron Throne.
I was wondering, where in the world did that come from? I'm glad most of the night you had it blocked with your big head.
I do have a big head, which is now sitting on Jon Snow's body.
No.
I just want to say thank you, Thomas. We appreciate it. If you guys have anything like that you do want to pass our way, you are more than welcome to send us an email and we'll tell you where you can send it. This was a birthday present, so thank you, Thomas. So again, we are Spines and Spirits. We appreciate you tuning in tonight. All of our socials can be found in the descriptions. Gerald, what should they do before they click off this video?
If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and also hit the notifications, because I might have told a little fib that we shoot every Tuesday. Technically, we're on a roll, but things happen. But you will see us in comments when you hit that notification button.
There'll still be something posted Tuesday. It just won't be in the King Killer universe.
It won't be out, but it's still good because you see our handsome faces. So
very handsome faces.
Yes. And leave a comment. So give me some comments, y'all. We appreciate it. Negative ones, I'm just gonna throw away. But no, I'm just teasing. No, positive ones, negative ones. Something that you didn't like. Shoot us a shot.
We like the interaction from you, our lovely, gorgeous listeners.
Yes, sir. I'm talking about the sir I'm looking in the camera with, not you. Cause we got late. I have late. You know what? I'm gonna stop talking because the spirits that got me.
So we're sipping on the Buffalo Trace tonight. Gerald, what was the proof on that again?
The big 9-0. 90.
Right. It's 90 proof. Buffalo Trace again, one of our favorite distillers. We really enjoy Buffalo Trace. You're going to get a review on it, but it's going to be a good review. So, spoiler alert on that. We do appreciate you guys tuning in. Like we said, we make every effort we can to post on Tuesdays. We're sorry that we did miss one, but hopefully we're back on track here. There may be some other side content or replacement content coming out. We're going to try and stay in the Name of the Wind as much as we can to finish it. We are better than halfway through the book at this point. We also kind of want to give you guys the opportunity to know us. So possibly some interviews with possibly some videos where we're going to be interviewing each other, maybe even talking about our favorite fantasy series, our favorite or our least favorite fantasy series. It doesn't even necessarily have to be fantasy because we live in that like science fiction fantasy world. We love all the books. We appreciate you tuning in. Like Gerald said, hit the subscribe button. It helps us know that you appreciate what we're doing. This video tonight is brought to you by our sponsor, Gerald.
Once again, y'all.
Because
that's
we
what
don't
a
have
J.
sponsors.
No, we do have sponsors. We sponsor. Tom got the lovely thing over there. So, there you go.
Sip, sip, slide. Have a good night.